Hello and welcome to How Could We, a podcast by EIT Climate-KIC, where we ask ourselves, how could we achieve a climate-resilient, inclusive and beautiful future for all? I'm your host, Anne-Sophie Garrigou. We created this space to allow for a series of conversations about building hope, curiosity and excitement for a just and desirable future that is compatible with our planetary boundaries. Here we talk to people who inspire us and who are putting transformative solutions into practice. In our previous series, we talked about many topics, including the need to redefine development funding, what it means to practice radical collaboration, and the power of art to reinvigorate the climate movement. Now, this new series is all about cities transformation. Last week, we released an interview with EIT Climate-KIC CEO Dr. Kirsten Dunlop on why we work with cities and how cities are a great laboratory for systems transformation. In this episode, we're going to talk about the importance of community engagement in cities transformation. A recent survey by the UNDP shows that 80% of people globally want stronger climate action by governments. But for the population to buy into effective policies and sustainable urban projects, we need to actively include communities. So today, we will talk about the role of civil society in advancing climate goals and explore the importance of community-led initiatives, grassroots movements, and participatory planning processes in cities transformation. This episode is about how could we better include residents in city transformation and what impacts those transformations have on the population. So I'm honored to welcome our guests, Marianne Lamberger from EIT Food and Christophe Gaden from Gardens for Good. Hello Marianne, hello Christophe, how are you?
Hello, all good.
Hello, Anne-Sophie and Marianne, all doing good in Paris.
So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to first ask you to introduce yourself and to introduce us to your project and or the organization you work with. So Marianne, do you want to get us started?
So my name is Marianne Lamberger. I'm program manager at EIT Food and most specifically working on EIT community activities. I'm leading a few activities there and some community-based projects, among which the one from Chris is.
Yes, so I'm Christophe Gaden. I'm the founder of the organization Gardens for Good. The mission of this organization is to promote food gardens globally by just showing that it has a very positive impact on health and the planet. And for this specific project, we just decided to do one food garden on the rooftop of a nursing home in Paris to demonstrate the positive impact it has. So it's been very fun. It's an extraordinary project, and I'm very happy to be part of it.
I'm so happy that we have this conversation today. So first I wanted to give a little bit of context maybe for the audience. So today we're going to talk about community engagement rather than just citizen engagement. And while both involve people in decision making, community engagement is broader and more inclusive than citizen engagement. So it covers not only formal democratic processes, but also activities like volunteering, grassroots organizing, etc. So if you hear us talking about community engagement, that's why we say this. Community engagement, it includes also non-citizens and marginalized groups like refugees, for instance. And it's really important because we need their voices to be heard, and we're gonna understand why in this podcast. Marianne, do you want to introduce us to the new European Bauhaus programs and tell us a little bit about the importance of community engagement in this project?
So the new European Bauhaus is a movement that started right after COVID, actually, with this realization in a way that cities and more generally places where we live need to be transformed and need really to be more aligned with what the communities need and expect from them. It's shaped around three values, and these three values are really the pillars. So it's sustainable, a sense of aesthetics, we say beautiful, and also inclusive. These three aspects really guide any project that we support within this big ecosystem.
So Christophe, can you tell us how the project Gardens for Good embodies all of these principles of the new European Bauhaus?
I really like these three principles of beautiful, sustainable together. When I read this, I thought it was like the perfect match with the project and with my vision, because like at the start, I just wanted to grow food for free. And I realized that it's actually just when you do it, it's actually very beautiful. At the beginning, I thought it would be very difficult to engage others. Like I thought I would have to convince them first and then they would join, but they just like decided to join from the first day, just because they liked the idea. When they heard that I was building a food garden on the rooftop, they wanted to come before even they could see the result. So the together, just I didn't have any effort for the together, like they just came spontaneously to join. So that was really cool.
And it goes so much beyond only the residents. I got the chance to be there for the official opening ceremony, and it was a very moving experience, really, for me, to see not only residents but also all the people working in this nursing house, and then the families of the residents coming to visit them, and then even more some schools from the neighborhood coming to have a look at the garden and to use this also as an excuse to educate schools and students on food. It was really mind-blowing how one little element can connect with so many different people and audiences and bring them together.
One question I wanted us to have a conversation about is when we talk about cities transformation for the community, what is it that we mean? Why do we have to transform cities for a community? What does this transformation look like, and what impact will this transformation have on people? I want to ask this question because a lot of time when we talk about climate action, about transformation for climate, people think it's, I'm not going to be able to use my car, I'm not going to be able to do this and that and that. And what I think we have to show in the climate movement is that this transformation, the things that we're doing throughout climate action, will benefit communities. I wanted to hear your thoughts on this cities transformation and how it's going to affect the communities and what it looks like.
This topic, I think it's really crucial to think about why we are in this situation and how we can move forward. First of all, I think that the places we live in are actually in a constant state of transition. Our cities are not only defined by their infrastructure, but most importantly by the people who live in them. So the way we move, what we do for a living, what we eat, so how we consume, all of this is really shaping the places we live in, to go even beyond, but the cities especially, because even more people are located there. And not only our habit patterns, but also our aspirations. So I think it's absolutely crucial to embrace this change and to involve all the communities, because shaping a city that does not reflect the needs and expectations from the communities is not a solution. It's an added problem.
Now that Marianne mentions we have to include communities, and I just want to talk about why do we absolutely need to include communities, including marginalized populations like elderly people in this cities transformation, and what happens if we don't include communities, if we do this transformation without including residents. What's your experience?
Everyone would probably agree that if you include every community, it's a lot easier for them to integrate, because they can build their own cities. I think this is very obvious from my perspective. If you engage, if you include everyone and every community, they are gonna bring you more innovative and efficient solutions. And if you don't include them, you're gonna miss on some very good innovation. So you should definitely include them.
Christophe, I really follow you on that. That's a part that is often missed in the general discourse. When you involve marginalized populations, you actually get the chance to find solutions that can only actually come from diverse experiences. And so it's really adding a value to this transformation and also fostering this sense of community and belonging, which are two key elements also in building a sustainable and healthy environment for all.
Marianne, according to your expertise and what you've seen over the years in projects that you've supported with EIT Food, what are some of the best practices for community engagement? What are the most impactful ways for cities to effectively engage communities in the planning and implementation of cities transformations projects?
Common best practice, but still worth mentioning, is the involvement at the earliest stage possible in decision making of the communities you want to involve. So the timeline is key. The transparent communication, this is also something that might sound obvious, but still is key in making sure that all communities involved are being addressed in the right way and not only in a passive way. And that goes maybe to the third, maybe best practice, the participatory approach, and that's a broad word, but the workshops or any activity that all of our projects need to embrace to really connect people between each other. And here I would like also to make a reference to Christophe's projects, for instance, in Paris, like on the rooftop, there is this garden, and it's not only a garden with great fruits and beautiful flowers. They also put some art pieces showing some different views on gardening or even agriculture. I think creativity is the best tool for community engagement because people are actually eager to participate, and there are beautiful ways to engage them.
Do you want to give us examples of creative way to engage communities?
I'm always so surprised how people are eager to participate. And I think that workshops where I have an example in Portugal, a beautiful project in an old parking lot, really like abandoned space where nothing was happening. And they came up with a series of games addressed to pretty young audiences, but it happened that the parents and even older population joined, and they really took ownership of the place and came up with like very beautiful, visually beautiful outcomes, and such a sense of community that just came out. Even on the pictures, it was so beautiful. So I could only imagine it in person how it was. And from there, people were looking forward to the next activities and came up with ideas themselves. So it's really about this seed. And now I make another connection to Christophe's project, because it's really about planting one seed and seeing all of the fruits that come out of this one single seed.
I just wanted to add something for the best practice. I would say that for me, like the idea was to give, like, just to arrive somewhere and give something. So it's something very simple, like we give them like the food garden, but then we don't tell them what to do with it. They are completely free. They come up with ideas on what to do at the garden. For example, like this week, like a new person arrived and she organized some music sessions, and medical staff came in and danced for the residents. So it was completely spontaneous. Like no one asked them to do that. Like the staff just like come and bring fragile residents. If you just like give something to very simple to people, like a platform, then they will know what to do with it. We should not tell them what to do with it. It's a lot better if they find ideas by themselves.
The most effective engagements are the ones where the communities are treated as partners rather than passive stakeholders. I think this is really key when you let them the space to do what they want to do. The positive energy that you brought into this project and that you actually made it happen so fast. And when I mentioned the positive energy, I really mean this statement, almost like to make a festive dynamic around the project, to encourage people to celebrate and to be happy about the smallest things. This is really something that helps a project grow and be adopted by people, and those people even want to become advocates for it.
Yeah, I think the way like people reacted actually fueled the project. I would like work fast and make it happen fast, like a startup style. And then people will be so happy that I would be even more motivated. So it's like a positive loop. It's even like one more benefit of involving people. Like they will actually fuel your project with energy. So you don't need to find other source of energy or even money. Like the people will give you energy.
I was wondering, because we talked in a previous episode, which was a project in India, we talked about the role of kind of community leaders that are going to help involve the rest of the community, or they're going to create a kind of snowball effect of motivation and participation. Marianne, is it something that you've noticed in the project that you've supported with the New European Bauhaus calls? Or Christophe, also maybe you can tell us about your experience?
Community leaders and even more like public authorities, they play a crucial role in this. And this is reflected in our calls, especially a one called Co-Create, in which we ask projects to form a consortium. So we really believe that community-based initiatives need the support of public authorities. And we also believe that public authorities have a role to play, because by promoting what the communities are doing, they are also empowering them. They are also supporting other people to join those initiatives, and they are really making them stronger. There are many ways for public authorities to support the projects, and it's about time they joined the movement.
Some of the most important leaders were the director of that nursing home and the person in charge of activity coordination. So they were very happy with the proposition from the start. It helped a lot because they let us complete freedom to create this, like with no obstacle, no, like they just like they gave me the key, like the physical key of the building. So that was I could like go fast and implement the project very easily because they trusted us completely. So having the trust of these leaders was very important.
In what ways can maybe traditional approaches to community engagement might inadvertently perpetuate maybe systemic inequities? And how do you challenge or redesign these methods to ensure genuine inclusivity and empowerment of marginalized voices?
One of the main challenges when you start this, you need to step out of your comfort zone, and you need to navigate through very uncomfortable waters. So you might have very small teams, you have limited resources, and you work with audiences that you do not necessarily know much. So you need perpetually to rethink, and it's this energy that is needed to create a process that makes sense that sometimes limits the outcomes. But it's a needed process, and I've seen many projects going through this with fantastic resilience and such a strong determination, and it's always worth it. But you need the energy and the willingness to go through all this.
If I compare it to like other big projects, maybe one difference is that like extreme simplicity. Like when you listen, like when I listen to some fancy big projects, sometimes it's very hard to understand. Like there's a special vocabulary, acronyms and stuff, and it's like you could even write a book about when it's very complex. So if you make a project that is very simple, easy to understand, it's going to be easier to convince people, easier to implement, easier to stay on track and focused on the objective and not get lost. And also another thing maybe is like trying to focus on projects that don't have too much recurrent cost. So there could be like an initial investment, but like if you choose projects that can run for a long time without too much recurrent cost every year, automatically it's gonna be more sustainable. Like it's like the difference between building a swimming pool or building a skate park. Both will have an impact on the local community. It will make people healthier because they can do sports. But the swimming pool has a lot more recurrent cost than the skating park. So if you have to choose between these two projects, it's very important probably to look at they're both simple, like swimming and skating is both, so they both match the simplicity criteria, but one has a very heavy recurrent cost. If we choose the one without recurrent cost, like the skating park, it's going to be a lot more sustainable and we can use the resource to do even more.
A good starting point would be to actually use the methodology that community-based initiatives use, which is called the stakeholders mapping. When an association is starting a project, they always map what's already existing, who would this impact. I would very much appreciate that for any policy or any decision that impacts a space, the same work would be done, and that there would be a strategy to engage those people and not consult. Indeed, the consultation is one aspect, but consultation has a very passive aspect in it, while involving implies a way more active way. So how do you not only listen to them, but get their ideas and make them maybe try the ideas and keep them engaged throughout the whole process from the idea until the implementation?
At some point, you need maybe to have like a local leader or like someone to drive the project. So at some point, it has to be not a group anymore, but like maybe one person who has a vision. You probably have to find the balance between a group who is thinking and then one citizen, one individual who's gonna drive at least the start at some point, and then involve the group again. It's like in a car or a bus. Like you can do like a good trip with 50 people in a bus, decide together where to go to do like a great trip, but you still need like one driver to start and to drive the vehicle. Well, there is maybe a balance to find. Even in the gardens, sometimes we see gardens that are managed by a group, horizontal group with no driver, and it gives a completely different result than if you have like one person who is like guiding at least at the start of the design of the garden. We hope that we can convince many people around the world to just start a simple food garden wherever they are. And even if they, like some people say, oh, I don't have a garden, I don't even have a balcony. So me neither. And I just found like someone else's place where I could start it. You don't even need to own a place. You can just do it somewhere else. If you go see people and offer them to start a food garden, there is a good chance they say yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, something that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yes, sure. On my end, if anyone has felt inspired by Christophe's story and what we mentioned about the community-led projects, we have 2 calls that are currently open until the 10th of October. So the Co-Create NEB and the Connect NEB, and we will select 16 projects across Europe. And so I strongly encourage anyone to have a look at that and hopefully apply to join our consortium.
For the next few years, I hope we can inspire lots of people to start food gardens and communicate globally, because now it's mostly offline in the real world. So I hope I can transfer some of it online so it can inspire more people even in other countries.
So now it's time for me to ask you the last question of the podcast. It's a tradition. We ask this question to everyone. What would a beautiful, just, and climate resilient future look like for you?
It's a future where our living environments are not only eco-friendly and resilient, but a future where the diverse social needs are also reflected.
For me, I will go back to my initial vision. When you see how is the rooftop of this nursing home, I hope we can turn like the entire planet into this. So basically there will be like food gardens everywhere it's possible. For example, instead of lawns, you'd have food gardens. So it's not just on rooftops, it's everywhere you can. And also on the south front of the buildings, you can grow some grapevines, for example. So people just have to open their windows and they can eat some grapes. It's very important that it has to be abundant. Like we are not talking about planting like 1 radish plant and 5 strawberry plants. Like if you walk and you have like 1 million strawberry plants, then you're like overwhelmed by the abundance. It's just like there is no similar feeling. It's like, birds, like when they eat, they don't like find one food, they find thousands. So and nature can provide us with this abundant food. We just have to plant the right plants.
I love this. Food and vegetables everywhere in our cities. Well, thank you so much, Christophe and Marianne. It was such a pleasure to have this discussion with you. I'm so happy.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all for listening to this new episode of How Could We? Check out the resources about the new European Bauhaus calls and Gardens for Good in the show notes. This podcast is part of a campaign that we're running in August and September across all of EIT Climate-KIC channels on cities transformation. So if this is something that you're curious about or you're working on, you can check out our website and social media accounts or contact us at media@climate-kic.org. If you don't want to miss the next episodes, follow the podcast wherever you listen to it and please rate us so more people find out about it. This podcast was produced by Barbara Mendes-George. Thank you so much for listening. You'll hear from us again soon. Bye!